I am joined now, live in the studio, by Dr. Roger Gewolb, who is the former advisor of the Bank of England and the UK Treasury. Now, have I been too strong there?
No, I honestly don't think so. I mean, our 13th consecutive interest rate rise in a little over a year, taking us to 5%. People say, well, wait a minute, you know, interest rates were 14, 15% in the 80s. Hey, you know, calm down. Well, you know, read the Leeds Building Society and the other reports that have come out and said that a 6.4% mortgage today is the equivalent of a 25.7% mortgage in 1980. Tell me about those good old days, hey? I mean, this is outrageous. And both Mr. Bailey and the old lady of Threadneedle Street, Patrick, they've both got form in this. Bailey has been criticized for losing people billions by acting too slowly when he was running the Financial Conduct Authority in the Woodford crisis, in the London and Capital crisis, where they say he should have acted quicker. And the Bank of England, believe it or not, as long ago as the 1840s, reacted too slowly, didn't foresee inflation, and then did what Bailey is doing now, piled on a slew of interest rate rises and wrecked the economy. So it's not the first time that it's happened. And the other thing is, this is cost push inflation. In other words, in Earth language, not consumer driven. We're trying to decide between heating and eating. Nobody's overspending like they are in the States, where inflation has been halved by rising interest rates. That doesn't work here. They all know this, but these guys, they're almost kind of Jobsworths. They're sitting around thinking if they don't take some action, they'll be criticized, so they might as well do this. And the government, Rishi and the others, he was just on, backing them up. I mean, it's insanity. We are going deeper and deeper into a dark pool of madness.
Yeah, and there's talk now of a conscious recession. Get this, right? You might as well learn this phrase very well, a conscious recession, which sounds like it takes the edge of it. Well, look, we're consciously in a recession now. We're doing this deliberately. But the very fact that we're having to have this conversation now, as millions of people, as you said, are choosing between heating and eating, millions of people are about to be absolutely clobbered with some kind of epic mortgage payment that they probably can't pay. They go to their local shops, they see what the price of food is in there. They've got security tags, for goodness sake, on milk cartons and cheese and butter. And then you look at this guy and you just think, have you actually done your job?
Well, I've been saying this for over a year. Since the first rate rise, you do not raise interest rates in the face of non-consumer inflation. When people are spending too much, you raise interest rates. You don't crush them.
Yeah.
And this is just insane, but they won't listen. Now,
they won't listen. And what strikes me is a staggering lack of creativity. It's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. Philip Hammond, Spreadsheet Phil, he's crawled back out from under his rock, hasn't he? He was talking about, well, you know, one thing that we could do to solve the old mortgage crisis will be to increase immigration, for goodness sake. Is this all they've got?
Yeah, let's go into recession. Let's have an induced recession coma for Britain. Let's increase immigration. Let's do the opposite of all of Sunak's 5 points. I interviewed Nigel Farage the other day on the subject of why do we have such bad leadership. You can Google that and listen to his answers. Look, I know we don't have a lot of time. I just want to say there are some things that the government could do. And it's interesting that Labour is standing by saying nothing. Well, why should they? This is going to fall into their lap, isn't it? Here's what the government should do. I'm very sorry. I've got to look at my list.
Let's do this, because I want to know what you think. You clearly have your head screwed on. What should we do now?
There's a bunch of things that could be done in an afternoon, in a week, which, unlike monetary policy, in other words, in Earth talk, playing with interest rates up and down, takes 2 years to work through. These would work straight away, okay?
Go on.
I've got to look at my list. Number one, they need to put pressure on the Bank of England to not raise interest rates anymore, maybe even bring them down. Take your foot off our ruddy throat, for God's sake, okay? It needs to reduce VAT temporarily. It needs to reduce the huge government tax take of sometimes 50 to 80% on petrol and diesel temporarily. It needs to uncouple the price of electricity from the almost totally irrelevant, much more expensive price of gas. Our electricity is priced off of gas, which Putin manipulates, and we're paying far more. It's estimated by one think tank we have paid 7.2 billion pounds in excess electricity charges in the last 24 months.
Shocking.
They need to uncouple us and charge what our electricity really sounds. If you don't believe me, folks, go to the National Grid. They have a live, real-time online clock that shows you where our electricity is coming from, and you'll see some days 10% from gas, 20%, not 100%. Why are we paying all that money? They could do that in an afternoon. They need to defer haughty Hunt's ridiculous. I mean, the picture of him smiling, announcing, wait a minute, isn't this the guy who said, I want to be prime minister and I promise you a corporation tax rate of 12.5%?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it became 25, and he said, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, guys. Announcing this corporation tax rate cut at a time like this, in the worst cost of living crisis we've ever experienced, for God's sake, defer it, man, until we're through this. Yes, corporations should pay, they should contribute, but it's just going to be passed on to us. I said on Nigel's show, these people are so stupid they can't see past their nose. Don't they know 3 weeks from now the tax increase will be added to our prices? So that's the last thing that they should do.
Look, if
they did those in one afternoon, it would take billions off the cost of living burden.
But that would take action. That would take action. That would take people actually getting off their backsides and having a backbone and going and doing something. Because I'm sorry, but right now I'm looking around the country and I'm just thinking that people, crucially, and this is the big thing, you know, that old thing about, like, oh, well, maybe the young people can just have one less rooftop cocktail somewhere around Soho. Yeah, all right, that was true for a while. Oh, those people, maybe they should give up the fags and the booze. Yeah, all right, fine. But actually now, millions of people are doing nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. And they are being badly run. We're going to have to leave it. We're going to have to leave it. I could talk to you all day, but what a way to start the show. Thank you very much. Dr. Roger Gewolb there.
Thank you.
Former advisor to the Bank of England. I bet you wish he was there now, don't you? And, of course, former advisor to the UK Treasury.